Welcome back. We're working on cleaning the frame off and cleaning the motor off so we can tear it all apart and it's not super oily mess for us.
Figured we'd show you kind of what a grimy mess this thing was. As you can see behind me here, we got the frame pretty well cleaned up. It's looking about 1,000,000 times better. You couldn't even see that this differential was aluminum originally, so it's not 100% perfect, but it's definitely a ton better. And yeah, more quality parts. These motor mounts are pretty great. Yep. So we'll be needing new motor mounts at the least too. Probably clean this up a bit and paint it before we throw it back in, because why not? It's out and accessible. It's a little better, but it definitely takes a number of rounds of this. Quite a bit better there. Today we're going to be tearing into this 4.3 Chevy Vortec motor that came out of the Safari camper van.
We'll see if we can find what caused all the metal and the oil that we found.
There you go.
So, this is
alright, this alternator's a core, so I'm just going to leave it on the ground here. I got a bigger couch fan. And we were struggling with this fan. It was a real bitch because we forgot to take the belt off. And even if we had left it on, I don't know that it would have been enough to crack it loose. But what we did, since it was no longer there, took a coat hanger and wired a loop to the head of the bolts, basically turned back a little bit so there was something to loop on, and then connected the other loop to this pulley here. And then we turned it, and that allowed it to lock up to free this nut up here. So,
and this should just spin off now.
Yeah.
Should. In theory. Of course it's... No, it's not spinning. It's just...
There it goes.
Wow. I got my shin pretty good, but...
Try to crack your fan free before you pull the motor out, because the belt's got to come out to get some of this stuff off. So that's a good place to start. As soon as you get access to that, while the belt's still on, crack that free. That'll save you a lot of headache. But if you don't, that's how you do it. That's how we did it anyway.
Yeah.
Now that that pesky fan's out of the way, we're going to continue taking all the stuff off the front of the motor and go from there.
Yep. It'll start with the power steering bracket and AC bracket, I think.
And the alternator bracket.
And then
probably the water pump after that. So we're not using the power tools that we have is beyond me. Well, this one's partially dead, so that doesn't help. But it still helps. It's like, oh, now it's fully dead. Never mind. There we go. You want to put that back in there? A little bit of radiator. No, you're good. It's already done.
That's a nice looking upper radiator hose there.
How do we get that pulley off, bro?
Oh man.
That's not what I wanted.
We're gonna need a new harmonic balancer.
That's not what's supposed to happen. Oh.
Huh. I guess that's not what you're supposed to do.
So for you guys watching, don't do it that way if you're wanting to keep it.
There's a real tool for it where you use some long bolts and it goes into where these bolts are. But we don't have that tool.
Fancy harmonic balancer tool.
Yeah.
There we go. Start moving back to the top of the motor, huh?
You want to do that motor mount?
Worried we're gonna break it.
I'm worried we're gonna break it.
Yeah, this is why we film this stuff.
Yeah. So
save you from breaking it.
So do we go to clockwise or
I think we go clockwise. That's the way the logic tells me. Oh, it works.
Yeah, it worked.
All right, you just got to turn it apparently. What is hiding here? I don't understand. Is there something hiding under the... Yeah, well, now we can maybe see it. Oh my god. Really? No fucking way. You looking through that hole? There's a little bolt in the bottom, right in the middle. I don't know how the hell you're supposed to get to it, but that's what's holding it on there. You see that?
But in there does not look
Yeah, dude.
gravy.
No, it don't look good in there at all. How do you get that?
Turn it some more.
Yeah. It's a Torx bolt.
Hold on.
That's definitely what's holding us up. Is there a way to, like, slip it off of there? It's loose now. Yeah, it's still not lifting off of here. Oh, yeah, there it is. I swear there should be something in here.
That's the same thing.
Fucking thing, dude. Oh my god. Really?
You just can't do it.
It was that bolt. Okay, hold on. Alright, woo!
We got it
We
off.
still gotta figure out how to separate those two parts, but hey. That's not great looking.
No, it looks pretty gunked up. Like, really gunked.
What a surprise.
There's that.
Holy
and that's
moly, dude,
everywhere,
look at this.
dude.
Look at this bolt here. Look at the... Oh my god.
Oh, man.
Oh my god.
Dude, it's kind of like everywhere.
Crap.
Like, right here.
That is thick in there, dude.
Wow.
That's not a great sign. Not a good start. This should be entertaining. You could like scrape.
Oh my god!
Oh, whoa!
What? Oh, don't take that out yet.
Don't touch
We need,
that.
like a close up of that. Oh my god!
That didn't help nothing. That's the cooling, huh? That's a chunk of what came out of there?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it looks like mud.
Clay.
Oh my god,
Clay.
dude.
Mud.
Whatever you're working with can't be this bad, I don't think.
That's bad. That's not good. Figured out we had to take all the rockers out to get access to all the head bolts, so we're doing that now. And then we might be able to get the heads pulled off of here and see if there's any damage to the cylinders or pistons. Get it up.
Okay, we're all free.
Seems like the cylinders aren't too scarred, so...
You can kind
I
of see
think
some
so.
of the cross hatching still in them. I do see some marks going up and down, but they're not
Either way, it doesn't matter too much
They're not-
because the
grabbing my fingernail too bad anyway.
machine shop will be able to tell us.
It doesn't look like the top of the piston heads have damage or anything, so that's a good thing.
Alright, let's flip it over, I guess, so we can access the bottom.
We're working on getting the oil pan off, and it doesn't clear the oil filter, so we figured out that we have to take the filter off to get the housing off to get the pan to slip out.
Which should just be 2 T40 Torx bolts going down.
Yep.
Oh, that was easy. That's a surprise.
It's better than having it ripped to shreds with a screwdriver,
Right.
I'll tell you that.
It's usually how it works out.
Then you gotta like chisel it off, that's no fun.
So, nice and...
Give you an idea what we're looking at there. Pretty
Doesn't look
sludgy.
good. It's silver.
It's gray oil.
Time for the oil pan. Let's see what damage we find. Oh, yeah, that don't look good. Oh, man.
Holy cow. Oh, my.
Oh, that's not good. That's metal.
Like, what is that?
Well, we'll find out the more we tear into this.
That's crazy. Like, I don't even understand what that could have come from.
Like a bearing completely shredded.
Oh.
Rod bearing.
Yeah, okay. If it just wore so thin, because this is like sheet metal, like paper thin.
Yeah, dude. It's bad.
Wow.
That's a lot of bearing.
Yeah, dude, that's an insane amount of metal. It's like somebody just threw a ball of freaking tinfoil in there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and crack the bolts all loose on the flywheel and the timing gears on the front while we have some resistance on stuff. And then we'll start taking the crankshaft and all that stuff apart. Getting the pistons disconnected from the crankshaft and getting everything else torn apart. So... Tell you what, it doesn't feel real smooth turning it. It's very stiff. It is not good. No. That should not be that resistant. While I was holding the flywheel for Justin to get that timing gear loose, I was looking at the connecting rods for the pistons on the crankshaft there, and I saw a thin piece of metal that looked like paper thin coming off the side of it.
You can show them down here.
So yeah.
Right there.
That's where that metal's coming from. But pretty safe to say.
It's not looking good.
Check this out.
There's one there. There's one here.
There, do that again here.
This one's
not too,
it's got
not great, but not as.
That one's done.
So that's 3 so far out of 6.
And this one's done. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And this one's not great. And look at this.
That one's got more bearing.
It's got metal coming out of it too.
So yeah, she's done.
I think we found the problem, folks.
Yeah.
We'll see what else is lurking as we take this apart.
It's looking pretty good, right?
Quality.
Give the GoPro a second to maybe.
It's probably out of whack. I can't get it back on. There we go. Almost there. Fun. Yes, fun.
The fun part.
Oh, okay, now we gotta get this side. Oh, it did.
Now that's a good looking bearing there. Alright, there's the crank.
Crankshaft out.
Success! Now we got the motor flipped over so we can take the lifters out, so we can remove the cam, and then everything's about ready to go to the machine shop. Yep, cam's being real stubborn, so we're having to use some pry bars to get it out of there. Just real lightly.
So we're working on getting this camshaft out.
Got about a quarter of the way out.
So what we figured out is that this cam bearing had slid out of the block. Nope, I got her. There you go. Hey, that's how it's supposed to come out. You're supposed to be able to just spin and wiggle.
Almost there, you're over halfway. Yep.
That's it. Alright. Those are out.
That's a empty block there. Besides the balancer thing, which we don't know if we need to take off or not. We got the motor all stripped down. So the cylinders were the first thing we looked at. They look fair. There's a little bit of vertical scraping, but other than that, I think it should be in spec to be machined out. And then we'll look at the bottom real quick here.
Oh, one thing before you turn it over, the water jacket here is pretty plugged up.
Yeah.
Some of the water jackets were all pretty corroded. It's kind of maybe a little hard to see, but
yeah, like this one.
That's probably the worst of them on the block here.
Yeah, there was a couple other ones with like stuff clogging them. These are going to be our crank bearing surfaces, and they don't seem too scarred out, so I think those are savable too. So the block might be good. We don't really know until we get it down to the machine shop. We'll move on to the cam down here. I'm no pro, but it doesn't seem too bad. I don't see too much pitting.
This is a little bit scored, a little fingernail grabby on this surface, but I'm sure they can clean that. I guess this one does too. Maybe that's just how they feel.
A little bit, but they shouldn't have too much of that, I don't think.
But I think it's more this stuff that you really care about, and it feels pretty smooth, not pitted, not gouged.
I think the cam is okay, but
we'll
who
find
knows?
out.
If it's cheap enough, we'll replace it too. Crank, that's a little heavier here.
It's a little heavier, and it might be a little bit of a different story.
We'll just go from this end. It's looking okay here. A little bit of scarring here. A lot more there. It continues to just get bad. This is probably the worst one. Like, you can really feel it with your fingernail.
You might even be able to hear it on the camera there.
This one's pretty bad too. Yeah, so
who knows? Not too bad on the end there.
Yeah.
Comparatively.
Who knows if this is salvageable or not? We'll find that out too.
Out of everything we've done on this thing, the piston rod bearings that connect them to the crankshaft were the worst thing that we've seen. Pretty sure that that's what accounted for all the metal sludge in the oil, as well as like the full-blown metal chunks that we found. That's probably what was restricting flow to the oil pump, and it's definitely what was creating a good chunk of the noise that we heard when we had it running for probably 10 seconds before we bought this thing. It was honestly the worst sounding motor that either of us had ever heard.
These are the rod bearings that we're talking about here.
They're like real pitted and scraped up. They look awful.
A lot of them have an edge that they're not supposed to have. I don't know if I'm picking any good ones there.
They're way thinner than they should be. They shouldn't have that ridge on them. Like, just bad news there. Pistons overall don't look too awful.
Some of the rings look pretty like seized up, like this one, like the oil rings on the bottom
like
here.
The skirt and stuff. Yeah, some of the wrist pins were pretty seized, like that one, obviously. Heads seem for the most part okay, but we don't know how to check the specs for the most part. There was some pretty bad water jackets in both of them, obviously, and a ton of sludge. That's the main crank bearings. Those surfaces all seem pretty good. Yeah, nothing too awful there. Oh wow, I didn't even notice these before. Wow, those are pretty awful.
Yeah, that's what we're working with. It's almost as bad as you get on that.
Yeah, that's gnarly. Oh, the head gasket, yeah.
Yeah. So
there we go. Throw that in the trash.
Head gasket was clogging a lot of it, apparently.
I hadn't even hardly looked at the valves at this point. Wonder what you check for on them, if they're just like real...
They're leaking.
Sloppy. They have a bunch of material buildup around.
We don't know until we take it to the machine shop and they tell us what all needs to be done.
We're about to get everything loaded up in Justin's truck so we can take it down to the machine shop. But before we do that, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up. If you're going to do this same thing, you're probably going to want to take all the bolts off the main components that you're going to send down to the machine shop, like the block and the heads, because anything that they don't need could get taken off and misplaced or potentially thrown away, and you're going to need it to put everything back together. So take it off now. You'll be able to keep track of it. There's a couple that we left on just because they may need it. So for instance, like here, the bolts that hold the bearing caps on for the crank, they're going to need to measure the tolerances here, so they're probably going to need these. But if they tell us they don't, they'll be really easy to take off and take back home with us before we leave it with them. Same thing with these bolts here on the head. They might need these as well. But again, if they don't, really easy for us to just take them off with our fingers and throw them in a bag and bring them home with us. Other than that, everything that's like holding all your bracketry on, or just whatever, take it off. If you're pretty sure they're not going to need it, get rid of it. Another thing that I wanted to mention to you guys while we're loading all this up and getting it ready to go is that some of the research that we've done I figured might come in handy for some other people and hopefully save some people some heartache. Originally when we got this van, we knew the motor was no good, and we figured, you know, we'll maybe just throw a remanufactured motor in there to be really efficient about it, especially if it was cost effective, and just get it going. Two things stopped us from doing that. When we first looked into it, we found some that were not too horribly expensive. They were in the range of like $2,200 to $2,800 or so, and that seemed okay until we started looking into the reviews of the companies that are making these that are not OEM companies. It doesn't look very good. Some of them hadn't even ran for 5,000 miles. There are 2 and 3 warranty replacements in, and when you look into the OEM factory remanufactured replacements, they run about $3,600, which is getting pretty expensive for our blood. And so that's why initially we were like, all right, I guess we're just rebuilding it. So we had talked to the machine shop, and they say it was going to take about 3 to 5 weeks to get all the machining done potentially. And we were like, oh man, let's revisit this remanufactured engine thing, and basically came to the same conclusion. We almost pulled the trigger on one of these things because we were like, oh, we could get it in a week, and we'd much rather be throwing this thing in a week than in a, you know, potentially a month and change. I'm glad that we got back online and did our research about it again and didn't pull the trigger, because man, what a nightmare that could be. So we're going to gladly wait the 3 to 5 weeks to get this thing machined. And even though I've never rebuilt a motor and Justin has minimal experience with it, I'd rather trust myself knowing that I put the right parts in it and that I went to a reputable machine shop that spec'd all those parts and made sure that they are to tolerance that they should be, and that everything was done right as far as I can have control over it. Even as a rookie, I trust that more than some of these motors I've heard about. So just figured I'd let you know that. All right, so we're ready to go burn to death in Denver.
Yep, and drop all these parts off at the machine shop and see what they tell us needs done.
Thanks for watching.
Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time,
on Brothers Fab and Adventure.